Hello everyone, welcome to Positron Academy. Today's topic of discussion is on the basics of radiation physics, in which we will deal with interaction of gamma radiation with matter. So in our previous presentation we have studied about the atomic and nuclear structure and also about radioactive decay in the perspective of nuclear medicine in more detail, and today's lecture will be more focused on interaction of radiation with matter. So in our previous presentation we have seen this decay diagram of potassium-40, and it decays through different decay process like the beta decay, electron capture, like positron decay, and gamma decay process. So now let us constrain our discussion on gamma decay process, like potassium-40 through electron capture goes to a excited state over here, and from this state it decays to a ground level of argon-40 by emitting a gamma ray photon. But now the question is that what these gamma ray do with matter, how at what phase this gamma ray photon interacts with matter. That's our topic of discussion today. So what does the gamma radiation do with matter? So this gamma radiation can interact with matter in three different ways. It can be either through photoelectric effect, it can be either through Compton effect, or can be through pair production. So let us discuss each one of them in more detail. So in case of photoelectric effect, the gamma radiation or gamma ray photons ejects an outermost electron. In case of Compton effect, it just scattered off an electron, and in case of pair production, these gamma ray photons creates an positron electron pair. So one of the things that the gamma ray can do is just to eject the electron, and the gamma ray, which has some energy of E gamma, and the electron, which has a binding energy of EB, and the kinetic energy of the electron that is being ejected will be equal to E gamma minus EB. For example, the E gamma for the gamma ray, let it be 1.46 MeV, and these E gamma, what it does basically, it ejects the electron over here, and the kinetic energy of the photoelectron will be equal to E gamma, that is E 1.46 MeV, minus the binding energy of the electron. And because of this demonstration of the photoelectric effect, Einstein was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1921. It's not because of E equal to mc square, it's because of the photoelectric effect. Einstein won the Nobel Prize. And what he did basically, he started firing photons of energy equals to h nu, that is h times frequency, or Planck constant times frequency, and there was no photoelectric emission until you hit the work function. And once you hit the work function, the photoelectric emission keep on increasing, and before the work function there was no photoelectric emission. So that means for photoelectron to be emitted, it must have the incident radiation photons must have minimum of work function, and if you possess minimum work function, then the photoelectric emission will keep on increasing with higher energy of the incoming radiation. Now we know that what is this W naught, we call that as the work function, that is the energy that is being required to remove the outermost electron. So this diagram shows the different patterns of work function of different elements. And if you look at the leftmost element, like these ones, like sodium, lithium, potassium, so these are those elements which have the lowest work function. And if you go towards right, you can see that the work function keep on increasing, and these elements follow a defined trend of work function, and like cesium, rubidium, potassium, sodium, lithium, they have the lowest work function. But as you start moving towards right, the work function keep on increasing. Like for this example, like these elements over here, which have the lowest number of atomic number, but still have the highest work function. So why is it so that they have the lowest work function? They have the highest work function, having lowest Z, is because the electrons are more tightly bound closer to the nucleus, and that makes the electron emission more difficult as compared to the cesium over here, which has electron far away from the nucleus, and thus emission of the electron becomes more easier. And so this diagram shows you the different patterns of work function of different elements, and this is the work done by Michelson. So next is about Compton scattering, in which an photon basically collides with an electron, and after collision the photon moves at an angle theta, and the scattered electrons moves at an angle phi from the incident photon. And also the scattered electron have a defined kinetic energy, because some of the energy of the photon is being transferred to the electron, and the scattered photon has lower energy than the incident photon. That is, this if the incident photon is having energy of E1 and the scattered photon is having energy E2, then obviously E1 is more than E2. That is, the scattered photon has longer wavelength than the incident photon. That means we can say that this scattered photon has gone through redshift. That is, it has shifted towards lower energy or a higher wavelength. For pair production to happen, the photon interacts with the nucleus and creates a positron-electron pair. And as we know from the previous set of lecture, that for creation of positron we must have a minimum amount of energy, and that energy is 1.022 MeV. And if energy is less than that, positron will never be created. Fine. So this gamma ray photon is going to create the electron positron pair. So this gamma ray must have energy more than 1.022 MeV, and after that only the positron electron pair will be created. And once the positron electron pair are created, this positron then annihilates the electron and results in emission of two high energy gamma ray photons having energy equal to 511 keV each. The next is about the gamma ray spectrum of potassium 40, and this peak over here signifies the photoelectric peak, and this peak over here is the Compton edge, that is the maximum energy that is being imparted to the electron, and this is the Compton bowl, and it's because of the different probability of scatter at different angle, and we don't see any of the annihilation peak over here. If present, it would be present at 511 keV, but it's not being present over here. The next is about attenuation of gamma radiation. So as we know that when a beam of gamma rays photon passes through an absorber, it undergoes a series of interactions. It can be either photoelectric interaction, it can be either a Compton interaction, it can be either a pair production, or the incident beam can be leaving the absorber without having an interaction. That is, simply it will be transmitted. Fine. And because of all this interaction, the photon beam is attenuated in the absorber and exits from the absorber with reduced energy. And how much intensity you are getting over here will be defined by this formula. That is Ix equal to I naught into power minus mu x, and that's the relationship as the graph between the linear attenuation coefficient versus photon energy. And these linear attenuation coefficient depends on three parameters. It depends on the photoelectric coefficient, it depends on the Compton coefficient, and also depends on the pair production coefficient. And as a whole, this linear attenuation coefficient is looks like this one, and this graph is because of the three individual coefficient. Is because of this photoelectric one, this one, for Compton this one, and for pair production this one, and the combined of these three is this one. So that's the total attenuation coefficient, and this total attenuation coefficient is because of the tau, sigma, and kappa. That is the photoelectric coefficient, the Compton coefficient, and the pair production coefficient. The last is about some of the basic terms that we should know. That is on the mass attenuation coefficient. That is attenuation per unit density of the absorber. We call as the mass attenuation coefficient. The next is about half value layer. So it's that thickness of the absorber at which the intensity of the incident photon beam is reduced by half. We call that as a half value layer, and it's defined as HVL equal to 0.693 by mu, and mu is the linear attenuation coefficient. And while knowing HVL is very important, because in calculation of shielding in the radiation area, it's very important to know the HVL of different materials. And also this HVL depends on the energy of the photon beam and also on the density of the medium. And next is about the 10th value layer. So that's about the thickness of the absorber at which the beam intensity is reduced by 1/10. that's we call as a 10th failure layer, and this TVL is equal to 3.32 times HV. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching.